Grown black folks talk of King Charles III, trick bag leadership, black people, and how to get out of that trick bag. Okay, so I didn't fully intend to cover what's going on with the British royal family. I don't follow it, but I've noticed something, and I think we need to discuss it because when we talk about the British royal family, we are talking about the side of the world that handed African people all the way around in the diaspora a lot of the problems that we still have to deal with today. When we talk about white supremacy, we are talking about it from largely the Anglo-Saxon perspective here in the United States of America. Now, let me say this before I go any further, because it's just necessary to do this. My sincere condolences, because I know I have viewers from the British Commonwealth, and I know that to millions of people, the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II is deeply disturbing. She was on the throne for 70 years. I'm 41 years old. So Queen Elizabeth is an institution just like my dad and my mom. It's been around just as long. It doesn't affect me the way it would if you grew up British or part of the British Commonwealth. But I can understand how this could be very rattling to you. So my condolences to the royal family and to anyone affected deeply by the Queen's loss. However, it must be said that we who are the survivors of the British Empire, we are the descendants of the survivors of colonialism and imperialism and slavery that was promoted by the British Empire, have to be able to discuss this subject and take from it the things that we need. I do not wish to be unnecessarily offensive, but if you hear anything that doesn't sit well with you, say ouch and move on. You have a right to click off at any time. I observed something about King Charles III. Um, a man who has lost his mother, who knew her for 73 years. King Charles III, His Majesty, is 73 years old. I'm 41 years old. If my mother died tomorrow, even if I knew she was dying, even if that happened, I remember losing my grandmother at age 25. And even though I knew it was inevitable, I would like to take, I figured I would need at least a week. I mean, just thinking about my grandmother's death, 16 years later, I would need to at least a week before I would come back out here. I'm sure that when either one of my parents passes away, I may come up here and let y'all know what's going on, and then I'm gonna be gone for a while because there's no way in the world that I would do to myself the burden and the responsibility of trying to be a public figure and going through that level of loss. King Charles III had his mother for 73 years. And yet, since the day she died, he has been doing, he has been out here making public appearances, giving speeches. He's flying all over the British Empire right now because he has to maintain this sense of continuity. The man has, Rudyard Kipling, British author, talked about the white man's burden. If you're going to be superior to the world, that requires of you a certain behavior, if this is going to be your line. George Orwell in Shooting an Elephant described it as because you are a white man, because you are superior, you are expected to perform. It is necessary for you to perform the role. And of course, a superior person cannot be a basket case if he is wearing the mantle of a fallen empire. The British royal family has all the trappings. It has a great deal of the riches that were extracted from colonialism. And the reason that they are allowed to retain those things is so that they can continue to perform the rituals of empire. When people who are white British talk about tradition, they're talking about a tradition where the British had the audacity to say that they controlled and owned a third of the earth and about that many of the earth's people. And here in the United States, we like to think that we got free for them in 1781, but we keep running back as soon as they do something, we can't get it off our news. Well, something that you don't know is about the Anglo-American alliance in 1890, which is why when the British and Europe got into some trouble, two little incidents called World War One and World War Two, we had to get involved with that. We have an alliance. So even without control of the United States, England's affairs with the rest of Europe have had a tremendous impact. And of course, Canada is our British Commonwealth neighbor to our north. Charles III, who is a constitutional monarch, as his mother was, he actually has no ruling power. He's there to perform rituals. He's there to perform ceremonies. And his whole existence, he has subjects. He is above the common. But why is he allowed to be above the common? So that he can perform these rituals, so that today's members of not so Great Britain is gone, the empire is gone, can still feel like they're connected to that time period in which English was law around the world. And for him to have a purposeful existence, his entire kingship, like his mother's. And see, when his mother was born, there was actually, the British still had a third world. Charles is the first British monarch in a very long time to reign where there's nothing there but the ceremony. Now, and I'm sure there's people in the Commonwealth who could tell you, if you do a deep dive, you'll find out that the empire is not quite gone. It's not out in public, but it's not, no, it's not quite gone. Be that as it may, Charles has just to do the rituals. England controls officially very little. All that the open grand empire has left are its rituals. And he is there to perform out of that trick bag. And because of that, he cannot go do what you would expect a man would do after having had his mother 73 years. He doesn't have time for that. He has to perform. He's in trick bag leadership. He can't be a normal human being and go curl up somewhere and cry. If it happens, it will have to happen far away. It will have to even happen far away because the British media is a little bit more aggressive than ours. So he knows he's got to get somewhere far, far away to not have it leaked out. So here he is flying around, participating in all these ceremonies. And the tragedy of the matter is there are two members of his family, one living and one dead, who showed that there is a way out of the British royal trick bag of performing. His uncle fell in love with an American divorcee and said, "Here, let me give you all this back." That's how Elizabeth became queen, because her father became George VI, because her uncle was like, "Let me give you all this back. I'm just a constitutional monarch. I don't need this in my life. Let me get married to the woman I love and move on." He gave it back. And of course, Prince Harry, met the woman he loved and said, "You know what? Deuces, I got to go. I can't do this with y'all." And reportedly, members of the royal family are still talking about they don't want Meghan around because she done messed up their happy home. No, Harry chose to do what his uncle did and got free. Because, see, there is a way out of the trick bag. You just have to stop pretending that you're better than everybody else, that you need to have subjects and everybody else is just commoners, and all this tradition that means nothing because Queen Elizabeth has passed away, but Parliament is still running. They're actually the ones running everything. But see, trick bag of having to be superior. It's a terrible bag to be in. It won't let you be a human being because you need to be above the rest of us. You need to be a demigod status. King Charles is Governor General of the entire Church of England, as his mother was. In essence, he is the Elizabeth I was sensible enough to know that she couldn't be the head of the church because Jesus Christ had a job. But as far as earthly things are concerned, every earthly decision in the Church of England is on earth. The king of the ruling sovereign of England is in charge of that. So when I say demigod status, I mean that. The only person over you is Jesus Christ if you're the king or queen of England, even in matters of faith. But you're gonna be all the way up there. You ain't got time to take a week off and go cry because your mother that you knew for 73 years is gone. Now let me go to the other side of this trick bag now that I've defined it. Those who had to play superior handed off to us as African people the burden of having to be considered inferior. So in an environment where people had to be broken beyond repair, have passed on to their children certain patterns from that trauma. People in the Black community, namely some of the men, want to complain that Black women are too hard, too mannish, too this. Well, this is what goes on. Trick bag leadership. If a Black woman grows up in a community where at least 30 to 33% of the men are convicted felons, well, I'm not going to get into the reasons why right now, but let's just think about it. Well, if a third of the men are disqualified for even earned income in most cases, for any kind of economic and financial leadership, if they have jailbird habits, if they do not know how to use a woman for anything but sexual pleasure. My mother was reminding me about some Sunday school students I have 6, 7, and 8, 3 different mothers, same father, one after another, after another, after another. That is not a family leader. But that man is out there doing that because he's trying to find a sense of validation. He's trying to find a sense of manhood the only way he knows how. That man cannot lead anything. So what happens? Black women have to hold the community down. They have to hold their families down. But when you are in trick bag leadership, you do not have the luxury of being able to feel all of your feelings and get all the rest that you need and do all the self-care that you need when you are in a trick bag. Black men who are doing the best they can in a community like this, presuming that they are doing everything they can right, the so-called good man is also in a trick bag. Because if you only understand earned income, living in a society where Anglo-Saxon men are not eager to have you show that they're not superior to you after all because you can do their job as well as they can and you can run their companies as well as they can, they're not going to do this. So you're always going to be behind the 8 ball in terms of paid employment for that reason as a Black man. And let's say you're able to get a job, a good one. Your wife and your children are not necessarily going to appreciate the death to the ego that it is every day. There was a YouTube content creator who said every day I die to flex. Flight Reacts. Some of you who are a little younger may know him. This poor young man is 6 foot and a mile, and he is the worst YouTube basketball player ever. But when the camera was running one time and people didn't know it was still on because someone else was talking in front of the camera, he was back shooting. Flight Reacts actually is a good basketball player, but he plays dumb because this is now his brand. Every day I die to flex. There was a gentleman named who was in the manosphere named Force Windu, and no one knew the pressure he was under. He was what we would consider a good man, married, children. I listened to the memorial that Dr. T. Hassan Johnson of the Honest Report had for him when the pressure just became too much. It was the saddest thing I have ever heard. All these men who came on, and for the day they were not talking about women and this and that. Men with jobs, men who were doing the things they were supposed to do and still not able to receive the respect that they needed as men in this society, and how no one understood, and how many of them had thought about suicide. Because that's what happens, even when you're doing the right thing, but you're leading out of a trick bag. And that trick bag was created by the ancestors of His Majesty Charles III. So he's still in one side of trick bag. He won't get out like his uncle and his son have because the compensation is that you get to pretend to be superior a little bit longer. And then we're in a trick bag that was handed off to us by the British Empire. So what do we do about it? Because I don't give you broken news. I have not covered the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth, nor will I probably ever mention His Majesty Charles III ever again, unless something really strange happens. I probably will never cover this subject again. And I didn't bring it up just to bring it up. First of all, recognize that you are in a trick bag and that you have a right to get out. Just like Charles III does. There's models in his family to get him out. If he really gets tired of it one day and says, I can't do this, he could leave because uncle left and son left. But most of the time, we stay in a trick bag because we don't know we can't get out. And then when we realize what it's going to cost us to get out. But see, we don't have the burdens of the British royal family. See, for them to be able to live like just free human beings will require a step down in status. The journey of African people has been to prove that we were allowed to step back up to being considered human. So when we get up there, we don't have to carry the weight of the world on our shoulders because we never tried to take it over. Couple things. Please, 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 ladies and gentlemen, learn how to make income beyond earned income. Yes, there's a recession coming up. Yes, there are going to be big financial troubles, and there are going to be some industries that are not going to budge. There are industries that didn't budge during the Great Recession. During their budget industries didn't budge during the Great Depression. Find out what they are and invest in them, and begin looking for jobs in that sector if you are in earned income. But you also can invest. You also can go into business supporting those industries. Find out what they are. A Google search. Look at things that are perennial investments. Look at things that are stable investments. Look at things that were stable investments during the Great Recession. There are some things that are not going anywhere because everybody needs them. There are some things that are not going anywhere because things that people think they can buy to better their situation. Makeup sales go up during a recession because a woman knows there's always one way out. Some things go up. Find out what they are. So there's that. So you're not always having to depend on the people who, like Charles III, are involved in superiority rituals, which involve, in this particular case, in the United States of America, pushing you down and not letting you advance in a job so they can feel superior. Learn how to get beyond earned income. You can get involved with passive investment and also business income from the comfort of your own home. You don't have to face 1,000 degrees of disrespect. There's so many opportunities available to you that are not scams, that you things that you can quietly, humbly do. For Black men in particular, if you are holding down what you're supposed to hold down, I give you the honor that I would give my own father who held it down and my grandfathers who held it down. It's a long and lonely road. Get together with men who are doing the same thing. The thing that was so sad about Forrest Winter was that if these men had been able to, and some of them were his friends, they did the best they could. But if Black men had a strong, healthy brotherhood, these things would be easier. So try to connect with healthy men who are also doing the same thing, with whom you can get together, connect, invest. You might want to look at, now I've heard Black men say therapy doesn't help because it's just talking. Well, life coaching is another alternative because life coaching gives you active steps. Tony Gaskins is a Black male life coach who has a life coaching platform on which they are Black males. My mentor dot life, Life, my mentor dot life. I'll put it, it's going to be in the description. If you need a Black man who can tell you how he got through as a Black man and then give you pointers on what you can do to better your situation, you can find them there. If you want more of an action step oriented, it's available. There are also a lot of Black female life coaches there as well, Black women. So I'm coming around to you now, okay? This is going to make the Black men who are of the mind that it's our fault that they can't lead mad. But stop trying to lead situations where no one else is interested in doing that. If you see, the thing is, as a matter of not being a hypocrite, I don't have a problem with SYSBM because I don't have a problem with the Exodus Network and Collective and all the beautiful Black women who are like throwing up the deuces like Harry did and getting the heck up out of Dodge. They're leaving Great Britain, they're leaving the United States, and they're going to wherever they feel they can live without having to carry the burden of a community that in which the men are not sufficiently interested in putting it back together. At some point, you have to cut your losses. You cannot do the job of two people. It will kill you. The trick bag leadership will kill you, ladies, just like it kills some of our men as well. You are not obligated to hold up what you've been abandoned to. You are obligated, you are not over to hold up the traditions of a community that has abandoned you. Now, in the shameless plug, September to Remember Bible Study, we'll be talking about a lot of what we think about church as a trick bag, given to us by an emperor named Constantine, who was desperate to hold his empire together and discovered Christianity as part of that, and took what he thought would be helpful and then built the trick bag called the institutionalized church that still stays with us to the day. I'm not just talking about Catholics. I'm going to keep saying this. But even that, being significant in institutionalized church many, many times is also, unless your church is actually doing what the Bible actually lays out as what church is supposed to be, even that's a trick bag. And that's a trick bag for both men and women. But for women, because we dominate the institutional Black church, it's a real trick bag for us. And even getting into a position of leadership. The saddest thing said in the trailer of Honk for Jesus, Save Your Soul is poor Trinity, who says, when this is over, I just want people to know that I did what I was supposed to do. According to who, though? Whose standards? Whose fallen empire are you trying to hold up as a Black woman? You know, we have Black men complaining about the gynocracy. No, if you have a gynocracy, it means you have a failed patriarchy, which means that women are doing the best they can running a community that the men have largely abandoned in terms of running it. Whose fallen mantle of empire are you trying to hold up? And why should you continue to do this? From the Black hand side of the question, we don't have to prove to anyone that we're human. We're just human. We just accept it and go on. We don't belong to Charles III. We don't belong to Joe Biden either. Our sitting president has the audacity to step up and you didn't vote for me. You ain't Black. Nobody died and left him on the throne of God either. So you can tell both President Biden and King Charles III, go somewhere as far as my life is concerned. President Biden, we may see you in 2024. We're going to see what's going to happen with that. But these white men don't own us. You ain't got to prove anything to anybody. Stop trying to carry the mantle of the fallen. That's not your calling. Step out of the trick bag of trying to live up to something that was handed to you by people that despised you and hated your guts. Stop carrying the mantle of other people that are not in a condition nor are they interested in confronting themselves sufficiently to pick up what they're supposed to pick up. Lead your life. Lead your life. Niche down who you're actually responsible for. If you have children, you're responsible to your children. You didn't have to lay down and make them. If you have older parents, honor thy father and thy mother, still in effect. But if they are people who are evil people, you don't have to honor them and be all up in their business all the time. Sometimes grown folks, even if they're your parents, need to deal with the consequences of whatever. But if they need serious help, life-sustaining help, okay. But it's just like you don't have to be codependent and compensate them for every tomfool thing that they do. Their fallen empire is not your problem. Don't let them die in the street if you can help it, but their fallen empires are not your problem either. Because you know why the British Empire fell? And you know why a lot of people are looking at Black women in particular to pick up a whole lot of stuff? Because when you do what you're not supposed to do, you can't have it because God comes to snatch it. It may take a little while, but you can't build something on a foundation of lies and have it stand. It just ain't gonna work. The British never had title deed to this planet. Your Black pastor doesn't have title deed to you. Slavery has been over in the United States officially since 1865. Excuse me. Step out of the trick bag. Step out of even trying to be a leader in a trick bag. Get very clear on what you're actually responsible for and stop trying to hold up the mantle of fallen empires. If your community is no good and nobody feels like they're working real hard to try to keep it together, why are you trying to do it? The empire has fallen. Get out. If people are seriously working on it and there's something to be saved, that's a whole different situation. But if not, there's going to be a grieving process. And you have a right to that process. Stop running around like someone having to perform like a British royal at a time like this. Grieve what you have to grieve and let it go. That's how you get out of trick bag leadership and the damage and the way that it will kill you. I can't do anything about His Majesty Charles III. Again, my condolences to him and his entire family. I can't do anything about what you choose to do as a Black adult, except warn you, except tell you it's not necessary for you to die trying to uphold a fallen mess that you did not create if no one else is interested in doing it with you. The cross was for one man, and you are not Jesus Christ. So do not get nailed up on a job no one else is carrying to do, unless you are called to that. And if you are, you will know. If not, don't make yourself a sacrifice because it won't do any good anyway. You'll just be dead and stupid. worn out, and stupid. No need for you to do that. You don't have to do any of that. Step out of the trick bag. All right. Y'all have a good day now. Step out of the bag. Get outside the box. Bye. Thank you for listening.